6th Annual International Religious Freedom Summit opened February 2nd in Washington, D.C. Hundreds of advocates, faith leaders, and policy experts attended the inauguration at Washington Hilton. The 2 day summit featured more than 90 organizations representing over 30 faith traditions. The event's plenary sessions, spotlighted presentations, and panel discussions focused on action, accountability, and awareness. The organizers issued a call to intensify global advocacy for freedom of belief. Organizers warned that religious restrictions and persecution are rising worldwide.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with all of you, and I am excited to talk about something that I feel very strongly about, and that is AI and interfaith. It's something that I don't think we discuss enough. AI is always in the news, but we don't often talk about this intersection, which I think is something that is very powerful and that we need to become a part of as religious voices. I'm hoping in the few minutes that I have to do three things. The first is just to start with some key points that I want to bring up. Second is to talk a little bit about what IF20 has done in past, because this isn't the first time that we've talked about AI. We've actually have about 3 years of experience of bringing AI into the conversation. And then finally, I want to talk about the future. What can we do in the future when we talk about AI and interfaith? So the first thing is I want to talk about key points. These are 4 points that I have felt strongly about that we need to think about. What are we going to do about these? First of all, AI should not be blamed for all of societal problems. And I do worry about that a little bit. Instead, AI can produce answers. AI is not the villain here. Instead, we need to think about what kinds of regulations do we need to put into place, especially as we talk internationally, not just here in the United States, but globally. The second is that religious leaders must counter AI-driven isolation by fostering more human-to-human experiences and connections. This has to do with the youth, but not just the youth, but also adults. That we do more one-on-one, and as either youth groups or adults, that we get together and have more of these wonderful one-on-one experiences. The third is that youth and adults must be taught to critically evaluate AI-generated answers that they get. Now, just recently, actually just yesterday, Manisha Jain, who is a dear friend but also a lead AI engineer at Microsoft, she's been at Meta, she's been at Google, she's done it all. She has come, I asked her very specifically to give me a 1 to 2 page paper that I can put on our website that would give some critical things that we can do to find out if the answers we get or the deep fakes that we see are true or not. And so she just sent that to me yesterday. I'm excited to share that with all of you. But I do think this is something that we need to help people understand, that the information you get from LLMs, garbage in, garbage out, and a lot of garbage is going into these LLMs, and we need to be aware of what kind of answers we're getting out. The fourth is interfaith cooperation is essential to combat this disinformation and misinformation and intolerance that is happening through some of the answers that we're getting in AI. So these are key points that I hope that we keep in mind as I go forward, talking a little bit about the past, but also the future. One thing I do want to talk about right now in terms of key points is the fact that IF20, G20 Interfaith Forum, is trying this year to set up an AI interfaith task force where we come together with different religions and also technologists that are people of faith to talk very specifically about what can we do when it comes to this idea of regulating something that I'm afraid might be becoming out of control. So in terms of the past, IF20 has in the last 3 years been having this conversation. Basically, the first one started at the G20 India in 2023. With our first meeting that we had in New Delhi, that happened literally 4 months after ChatGPT came out. And so it was interesting to see the conversation, because a lot of the conversation was, we don't know. We don't know how this is going to affect religions. We don't know how this is going to affect society yet.
Cole, and I want to have a special thanks to Cole and Catherine for their leadership of the Interfaith 20, who over the years have really built, I think, a really successful international consortium to take on some of the biggest policy challenges of our time. So thank you so much. And thanks for all the work of the team from the IF20 and the work they've been doing to build this forum. The story that I'm going to tell are stories that are familiar to all of us. It has to do with our creation stories, harkening back to the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, but also knowing that in most faith-based traditions.
About my community, almost 800 million women have undergo a lot of discrimination at the intersection of religion. And so you just mentioned that the SDGs have failed in not mentioning the importance of interfaith dialogue. And as you move forward crafting these policies, I had a team of women who study patriarchy for the last 3 years, and we have come up with recommendations every year to insert feminist theology. Women should have a right to interpret, reinterpret, and not just seek consensus, but mold consensus. So I hope that we will have some kind of verbiage in those recommendations, that women be given theological leadership, not just have organized events, but they should have the freedom and the right and the opportunity to write their theology. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the sort of the middle and the. Yeah.
Thank you, distinguished panelists. I have a question. You, Sarah, touched on the importance of and the core belief that we have to support, we have enough resources to share, and that we should share them. How can you prevent the exploitation of resources?
Also, the one that was directed to you directly about prophetic tradition, and then Mariana gets the one about AI, and then I'll think a little bit more about where the other two go.
Well, I'm going to start with a story of how I got involved in this business. I was working at the World Bank on international development issues as a country director when the president of the World Bank, Jim Wolfenson, drafted me because he thought that it was a very sensible idea to engage with religious communities. He saw the gap and thought it was a good idea. And to everyone's surprise, including consultants, expensive consultants, etc., there was a lot of opposition to this. He would say out of 184 countries, 184 were against it. And so we did a lot of thinking and consultation about why it was that it has been so difficult to engage religious communities effectively in development. And one of the reasons is the perception, and we're dealing with perceptions and reality, but a perception that many religious communities were basically against some of the important changes that are involved in development, and particularly equality between men and women. And that perception drove a lot of the opposition to even having conversations and engaging with different religious communities.
Your question was about AI and the restrictions that would happen and how that's going to be. I think it's interesting, anybody who's been through law school knows that one of the main classes that you take is that tension that's from the beginning of our Constitution as to how do we balance that, especially when we talk about the most vulnerable, when we talk about those who are underage. How do we handle, especially a system that is completely open in terms of communication of positive things and negative things? And so I would say right now what we're seeing is it's being done through lawsuits. There are many large lawsuits that have already happened that has caused restrictions of AI.
In terms of that idea of sharing resources, just like the early believers had to legislate it, that's essentially what we work on with the G20 and world governments. So it's how do you implement the policies around ending poverty, around how do you create global health care, how do you ensure every kid can go to school, how do we finally stop the reality that 1 out of 5 kids under the age of 5 dies in sub-Saharan Africa from preventable diseases. So the technical policies behind all these social goods are mostly debt policies, but also tax and trade and other economic policies. And so it's why the G7 and G20 have been focused on these particular policies for more than 25 years. Policies that the G20 takes on that ultimately are the policies that are related to childhood hunger, development, education, and global health care.
Now, as you've seen, we had our final participant just arrived. This is Abiy Mohammed, and we're stepping right into a discussion and you don't know what it's been. you have ultimate freedom. We asked him to give us a Muslim perspective on some of these issues, and I think you can probably you should feel free to speak, but not more than 8 minutes.
Yeah, you take a risk when you give a clergy a microphone.
It's hazardous, you know.
First of all, I would like to say it's my honor to join this wonderful panel and panelists, and also to be part of the G20. From some perspective, that we connect faith to development and advocating for people in need.
So inclusiveness is really one of our principles, and anytime we're not living up to that, we should be called on, and we should learn how to do it better. I think we've probably come to the end of our time. I think as I said, we got some non-softball questions, and I think they were good and representative. But let me give everyone on the panel with just a short final statement.
I think the main message is that we need all of you to focus on the broader objective of navigating this complex challenge of trying to bring the best of the religious experience into the broader agendas of our time, because we have so much potential. We really live in extraordinary times, the best of times. But we also are facing extraordinary problems and challenges.
I'll follow up on the economic system. So Pope Francis, we had a meeting with Pope Francis in 2017, and people were presenting the work they were doing on the economy, and his statement stunned everyone. He said, "We don't need any more Good Samaritans. We need to change the system so there are less people by the side of the road that need to be picked up." And that statement then said, the partner, and I wanted to point out Matthew Jones, who's with the Ford Foundation, and Bruce Wardle, who's one of the trustees, and then our partner in Singapore, he and I are both Catholic, Lawrence Chong in Singapore. This idea of having a mark on the London Stock Exchange is to change the economy. That instead of looking, you try to raise money for AI, and people throw billions, if not trillions, at it, with no guarantee that it's going to make them money.
It's no secret we live in a really polarized world, and that there are a lot of centrifugal forces pulling us apart. And we need a few centrifugal forces that bring us together. And I believe this IRF summit is one of those types of things. And I believe the G20 Interfaith Forum strives to be one of those types of things. It strives to be a forum that's bipartisan. It strives to be a forum that is inclusive. It strives to be a forum that focuses on best practices, on listening.
Brian talked about how we need to change the system, and AI is changing the system. And so what we need to do is to make sure that it changes the system for good. And I think that's the number one reason why people of faith need to be at the policy table, especially when we talk about AI.
Thank you. I think pretty much every social good that we've won around the world that the faith community bears a lot of responsibility for. And I think we've seen time and time again when the faith community has come together, it literally can move mountains. On Christmas Eve in 2024 with Pope Francis and major religious leaders, we launched campaigns in 160 countries with over 200 faith traditions and groups. Strong responsibility. The faith community can move mountains and will move mountains on this and other issues so that no child goes to bed hungry.
There's a saying of a prophet that humanity, like people who board the ship. The ship have a upper deck and lower deck. People in the upper deck have fresh water, but they refuse to give to the people in the lower deck. The people in the lower deck decided to make a hole in the ship to get their own water. North and the south. We need to make sure we save the ship by giving every money.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Of family life. And I remember one particular occasion when I, as the beleaguered mother, was up to here with all of the ways in which they didn't seem to be absolutely loving their siblings at the moment when I thought they should. So I had an idea. I went around the house and gathered up a big bunch of pencils. Like many people, you have just an old can and jar in which you put all the pens and pencils. And I gathered them all. They were much younger then. And I gave each one a pencil. I said, I'd like to see who is strong enough to break the pencil. Well, this was fun. Usually Mom was saying, don't break things. And now here I was giving them free rein to break pencils. And they were very proud. And the boys in particular, showing off their muscles. They were so tough. And said, yeah, you guys are pretty strong. And then I got another bunch of pencils, 9 pencils, one to represent each of the children, and my husband and myself. And I put them all together with a rubber band. I said, okay, now I'd like to see who's strong enough to break this bunch of pencils together. Of course, everybody tried. Of course, nobody could, not even their dad, big strong dad with big muscles. Nobody could break all of those pencils when they were bound together. And then I told them the mother's lesson to be found in it, that when they were separated, when they didn't come together in unity, they were easily broken, and that in life they would need to be unified with each other. They'd need to have each other's backs. Otherwise, life itself could break them. And there is a message for all of us. And that is the message I think that Amjad is hoping to teach us with this wonderful solidarity event. The Rohingya, the Parsis, the Jewish community, the Ahmadiyya, the Baha'is. I could go through all of the communities communities. Alone, we are not able to withstand the pressures, withstand the threats of those who want to break us. But together, unified, bound together in justice, kindness, and love. Did I get all of them? Bound together in justice, kindness, and love, we do become unbreakable. So I thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being my heroes. And with that, I will turn it over to my dear friend Anja. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina, for, as always, very thoughtful framing remarks, and to do so after, I'm sure, 12 or 13 events in the last 48 hours. I really appreciate that. We are, as a Religious Freedom Summit movement, very honored to be working with the government. We don't just talk. We're not a talk shop. We have action. Today is about action. Actually, the whole summit is about action. And we were reflecting on that this morning as well. And a person who really understands a lot of action is our next speaker. Dr. Stephen Schneck is a commissioner for the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. He was appointed by President Biden in 2022, reappointed in 2024, and he served as chair just in this last term, 2024 and 2025. Political philosophy background, fabulous scholar, thinker, and a dear friend. And he has been genuinely working at the U.S. Commission, if you don't know, USERF we call it. It actually has an advisory role to play with U.S. government policy, and it's transpartisan. And all political parties participate, but these are experts who are in this space since 1998. So I welcome Commissioner Schneck for his remarks.
Thank you. And thanks especially to all who helped organize this extraordinary event. I love the title, United in Advocacy, a Year in Solidarity with the Persecuted. I just love this whole concept. And Katrina's story about the pencils, I think, was just perfect in kind of capturing, what this is all about. Christians speaking for Yazidis, Falun Gong speaking for Ahmadis, Rohingya speaking for Uyghurs, Druze speaking for Jews, Uyghurs speaking for Christians, Yazidis speaking for Druze. It's just amazing, an amazing concept. And I have to say, one of the reasons I find this so inspiring is because, frankly, this is the mission of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. It's that same kind of solidarity. That same kind of solidarity, not focusing on one group, but focusing on all of the persecuted groups around the world who are suffering because of what they believe or what they don't believe. So it's an extraordinary honor and privilege to be here with you today. USERF shares with this gathering today its steady protests against discriminatory religious law. These are just a few examples of the millions of individuals around the world targeted because of their beliefs. Friends and colleagues, our work together, that's that solidarity thing, our work together does indeed make a difference. Timeless advocacy from civil society, or legal experts, and officials with the U.S. and other governments have made a difference. They made a difference for Mubarak Bala, who is free today from the Nigerian prison cell where he languished for 5 long years. It made a difference for Patrick Zaki, who received a presidential pardon and released from prison just hours after his conviction for the supposed crime of writing about the struggles of Coptic Christians in rural Egypt.
We're blessed to be here on Capitol Hill, and of course, members of Congress are the ones who are advancing the ball for their constituents on these issues. And we're delighted to have one of the most extraordinary advocates for human rights on the Hill with us this evening, and that is Congressman Jim McGovern. Congressman McGovern is the co-chair, the Democratic co-chair of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, which is the most important human rights arm in Congress. And he served in that role for many years. His district is the second district in Massachusetts. I can say a lot about Congressman McGovern. We just spent almost an hour together before this gathering talking about a number of issues. But I just wanted to share one personal anecdote, Congressman, which I haven't even shared with you, and you might remember this. In 2016, I went to Pakistan, and I was meeting the ambassador there in Islamabad. And my dear friend Nasarana, who's in the back from Boston, was there, and I had taken a long journey to get there, and I needed to meet a specific person within the embassy and needed to get a specific advocacy done. And when I was having this done, it was around 1:20 a.m. on the East Coast, and I needed something done within 40 minutes. And I happened to get the mobile number of Congressman McGovern somehow. I still don't know how. And I texted him, and he responded to me at that time. And I made it very clear the urgency of the matter, and with sparing some of the sensitive details, I was able to get what I needed to get and where I needed to get on a very sensitive matter within a matter of minutes. And I thought to myself, and I was quite younger then, I mean, in the sense of the advocacy, nascent learning, that this is a person who really, truly cares about the cause, imbibed in his very core. And that's how I've known him for everything. And so it's really extraordinary to see how many lives he's affected with his advocacy and how humble he remains in that process. So I'm delighted to invite Co-Chair McGovern to share his remarks this evening.
Well, after that build-up, I can hardly wait to hear what I'm going to say. But good afternoon, everyone. And it is an honor to be here alongside IRF Summit co-chairs Katrina Lantos-Sweat and Sam Brownback, two giants in the field of human rights. I'm happy, at least Representative Sam Liccardo is going to be here. Great to be here with you, sir, Commissioner Stephen Schneck. I also want to extend a special thanks to Amjad Mahmood Khan and the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA for leading the charge on this important event, and to all the advocates who will address us today. It is heartening to see so many people gathered in defense of one of the most fundamental human rights, the freedom to believe, worship, and live according to one's conscience. As USERP's latest report makes clear, this right is under threat all around the world. Religious groups face many forms of discrimination and persecution. Governments criminalize religious practice. Extremist groups target houses of worship and clergy. Members of Congress on both sides of the aisle have long recognized that the United States government has a moral responsibility to oppose these violations and support those who are persecuted for their beliefs.
Member of Congress with us this evening, my dear friend Sam Liccardo. Sam currently represents the 16th Congressional District in my home state, California, although in the northern areas, in Silicon Valley. I've known Sam for a long time, when he was mayor of San Jose, and he is such a luminary in his community. I had a small anecdote. I had a wonderful opportunity to spend 3 days with Sam and his wife at our Jalsa Salana, the annual convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the United Kingdom, where there were 45,000 people. And Sam spent 3 full days there, meeting with so many people, and it was just a wonderful experience. We were able to bond together over that. Thank you so much for coming. I invite you to share some remarks tonight.
Thank you for what you continue to stand for in our country and in our world. The Ahmadiyya community is a force for unity, for peace, In my own faith tradition, as I think about Catholic and I think about our own Holy Father, how important it is in moments of such deep division in our country and in our world that we have religious leadership, such as His Holiness, standing up to say the courageous thing that needs to be said in a moment like this. That there's more that binds us together as human beings, that our values and our spiritual values in particular are far too important to allow political divisions to persist. I am grateful for the support and love I've felt from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community back home. We have a wonderful community there, and certainly want to do all we can to ensure throughout the world, particularly in those parts of the world where we know that Ahmadiyya Muslims are suffering persecution, that we stand up for their rights to practice their faith freely and their passion, which we all share, for human rights. Thank you. I look forward to many years of partnership.
I really appreciate it. We have a unique event now, and we're going to turn to these testimonials. And really excited to be having a great set of advocates here today. The first testimonial is from Sean Nelson. Sean Nelson serves as senior counsel, a lawyer for global religious freedom with ADF International, where he advocates on behalf of Christians and other religious minorities being persecuted for their faith around the world. I've gotten to know Sean, a really terrific lawyer and advocate. So tonight he's going to be speaking for the Yazidi community.
My name is Sean Nelson. I'm honored to speak today, not for my own community, Christians, but on behalf of the Yazidi people, because we cannot stop the oppression today. At least we can make sure the world cannot look away. In 2014, the world watched.
Thank you for advocating for the Yazidi community and to all the Yazidi community representatives tonight. We share and stand with you. The persecuted stand with the persecuted. Our next speaker is Cynthia Sun. She's senior researcher for Falun Dafa Information Center, where she focuses on persecution, documentation, transnational repression, and public policy. She's a member of the Falun Gong community, which is a persecuted community. Tonight, she's speaking for the persecuted Ahmadi Muslim community.
Thank you. My name is Cynthia Sun, and I am honored to speak today, not for my own community, Falun Gong, but on behalf of our Ahmadi Muslim brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Cynthia. Those words mean a lot personally to me as well, and to the Ahmadi Muslims who are here. Rabbi Aaron Ariel Levi is the managing director of the Or Torah Interfaith Center, which works with religious leaders worldwide to make religion part of the solution to global challenges. I've gotten to know my dear friend, and he's a true advocate for peace and human rights. And tonight he's going to speak for the Falun Gong.
Okay. My name is Rabbi Dr. Aaron Ariel Levi, and I'm honored to speak today not only for my own community, but on behalf of our Falun Gong brothers and sisters. Because if we cannot stop the oppression today, at the very least we can make sure that the world cannot look away. For 26 years, the Falun Gong practitioners in China have endured unspeakable cruelty, simply for meditating and living by the value of truthfulness, forbearance, and compassion. They first torture, imprisonment, and even forced organ harvesting. In 2025, the campaign showed no signs of slowing, unfortunately. Nearly 5,000 Falun Gong practitioners were reportedly detained or harassed. One of them was Chen Yan, a a 45-year-old woman sentenced to live for 5 years for disputing flyers. She was sent to the Hungarian women's prison and beaten to death within 3 days.
To all the members of the Falun Gong community, we stand in solidarity with you this evening. Our next speaker, Wei Wei Niu, is a member of the Rohingya community, the Rohingya Muslim community, a former political prisoner in Myanmar, and the founder and executive director of the Women Peace Network, a real, true advocate for the Rohingya community. And tonight, she's speaking for the Uyghur Muslims.
Thank you very much, Amjad. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wei Wei Niu. I am honored to speak today, not for my own community, but on behalf of our Uyghur brothers and sisters. Because if we cannot stop oppression today, at least we can make sure the world cannot look away.
In Bedouin gangs and forces of the Syrian army. The clashes left many dead or injured and forced families to flee. Civilians were placed in a position of having to defend their own villages and the city of Sueda itself just to survive. The human cost was devastating. Children, women, and the elderly were harmed through brutal violence.
Muslim brothers and sisters, I know there are a number this evening. We stand in solidarity with you this evening. Thank you so much. These were just a few testimonials. I hope that they provided you a snapshot of the conditions that our persecuted brothers and sisters. I know I learned a lot tonight and this evening, and I hope that's the same for each of you. I now invite the co-chair of the International Religious Freedom Summit, Ambassador Sam Brownback, who of course everyone in this room knows, who's been working on these issues for many, many years. And he has, in many ways, been an architect for our advocacy. And I think that the sixth effort that we have is showing the force that is the International Religious Freedom Community. I think it's only appropriate to have Ambassador Brownback have closing remarks this evening.
Thanks, Amjad. This is the closing event for this for the summit, and I think it's been a fabulous summit. I think it's been our best, just quality-wise, unity-wise. And as I look out on this crowd, I'm reminded of my sacred scripture that in heaven we're going to see myriads and myriads of people from all tribes and all nations. And this seems to be a glimpse of that, of all tribes and all nations, that people here standing with each other. And the stories, thank you all for sharing those. I sit over there, I'm sad about it because this is only kind of a glimpse of some of them. There's a lot more. But you've been here today and on Capitol Hill advocating for this. This is key. We've had more members of Congress come by advocating this year than we've ever had before. That's good. They know the subject. That's great. That's the beginning of action. If we can keep that momentum moving on forward throughout the year, which I think we're going to be talking about what we can do to keep that sort of momentum. Not just have an advocacy day, not just have an Earth Week, but to keep that momentum moving forward so people here know what's going on. And action follows. We don't want to just talk about it. We want that action to follow. And so thank you for investing your time. After a 2-day summit, when you spend your third day on the Hill, and the Hill is exhausting. When you're sitting in these and you're going from place to place and it's cold outside, this is an exhausting place. And you come in here, it's 5:30 in the afternoon, and most of you aren't sleeping. Some are, but most are not sleeping. I'm really impressed. Thank you. Thank you for making this movement what it is. Keep pushing, keep praying for this. Keep your prayers going for this movement to be successful, and we all can be.